Good afternoon, Westwood, and welcome to the Wolverine Report, episode 32. Joined as always by my co-host, Evan Cardimino, Charlotte Lynch, technical director, Marie Fiscaldo, and I am Morgan Donahue. And folks, we have a fantastic episode to bring to you. The leader of your Westwood Girls Lacrosse team, an amazingly historic program that has continued to win for year after year. And we're excited to talk about it, and we're excited about the prospects of this year. Margot Spatola, head coach of your girls, Westwood Lacrosse. Coach, how are you? And thanks so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Absolutely. Like we were saying earlier, we are less than a week away.
Yeah.
Does that feel surreal? And how excited are you for the season being that close?
The wheels are spinning. I've got lots of things going through my mind, thinking about what needs to happen. But more importantly, I'm just excited to get back with the girls and be with them every single afternoon for the next 3 months. So yeah, lots going through my mind, but very excited for sure.
It's got to feel like, when I was a kid, I have an older sister. So Lil's mom, my sister, she's 15 years older than me. And she would go off to college and would be heartbroken that us big sis was away. But then summer came and it was back. And that's got to be the same feeling for, now you're back, reunited with the kids.
We're reuniting.
Coaches loving it. Kids loving it.
Yep. Everyone's happy to be there.
But wanted to kick off by, learn a little bit more about Margot, the person. Where did you grow up? Where did you and how did you get introduced to the game of lacrosse? And, where did you ultimately end up playing high school and college?
Yeah, so I grew up in Hingham. I am class of 2005 from Hingham High. I have 4 sisters who are my biggest cheerleaders in addition to my parents.
Love it.
I always say my parents spend their June birthdays at lacrosse games, which I'm very fortunate to have them cheering me on. But having 4 sisters, I'm the middle. We all played sports, and my oldest sister played at Hingham as well. And then my next sister went to NDA. And so when I was in 8th grade, NDA did not have a lacrosse team.
Yeah.
So my parents did not make me apply. So I very fortunately ended up at Hingham High. And I still have great friendships from there. To this day. I started playing lacrosse in 7th grade, which is actually pretty late for nowadays.
Yeah.
Then it was pretty typical, but so many kids have sticks in their hands from like 2nd grade on. So that's where I got my start playing with my hometown friends. And then as an athlete, I luckily found Leslie Frank. And I started playing Mass Elite when I was in high school. And I was very fortunate to have someone like her leading the way for not just me, but all girls in so many different sports. Early on when it was still kind of gaining traction. And so Leslie definitely supported me in that before I then moved on to Boston College and was a walk-on as a freshman. And I think the what I learned from Leslie and my high school coaches before then was that determination to I knew I liked playing. I loved playing. So if I didn't get a recruited opportunity, I was going to walk on and make it my mission, and I did. And I have my group text with my college teammates still. We talk about all the games and all of our very fond, sometimes not so fond memories of our college days. But we actually, my junior year, we had the very first ACC win ever over UNC. So that kind of laid the groundwork for all of those national championship appearances. So yeah, it's nice to have those connections, and now obviously continuing in the sports world. I'm very fortunate to have lots of connections with former players, my coaching colleagues, and that's kind of where I am today, I guess.
Amazing. And Margot played with a couple Westwood Wolverines at Boston College. Lauren Fitzpatrick, Maura Mahoney, terrific athletes, part of the class of 2005 as well. Amazing.
Yep.
Joining Mass Elite when you were going into high school and then being a part of high school, and then going to Boston College and walking on, did Mass Elite teach you just a different level of competitiveness? Did it teach you also, like, how dedicated people can be at a sport outside of Hingham that really help kind of, really burn the fire in you?
For sure. I think, and so lacrosse was huge in Hingham, compared to some other towns for the early 2000s. And they actually won a state championship when I was in middle school, so I missed out on that. But having that, those like mentors and people that I looked up to there, and then being able to find more people like that at Mass Elite, and the competitiveness and other people who I found felt the same way about athletics and lacrosse, that helped drive my competitiveness, my drive, and I definitely felt that Mass Elite, and then the people I met there and in the broader lacrosse world for sure helped. So Hingham was a great starting point for me. I was very fortunate, and then finding people who were like-minded as well. In addition to that, was definitely what helped me keep working and keep going.
Yeah, it never leaves us either.
No, clearly.
And I'm fascinated. What I love about bringing guests on the podcast is so many like-minded, former athletes, coaches, and whatnot that are super competitive, and it's when you find other people that have that, it's awesome, because then it becomes even more competitive.
For sure.
I want that extra rep.
For sure.
I want to be up 5 minutes earlier than the earliest person who's waking up, and stay 10 minutes later than the person who's staying the longest. And you mentioned the Franks. They are like some of the most competitive I've ever been around. Meredith, one of my classmates, and married to my best friend Danny McGinnis. And one of the examples I bring up on the podcast is she's well beyond her playing days now, but she wants to win just like you. And it's some of the best like games that we see is NDA and Westwood. And one of the examples I say when it comes to competitiveness is she tore her Achilles on the sideline and finished the game on her knees. And I know you would do the same too. But that's the fire is still in any like competitors, even when they're coaching. And I love that, because the kids see that, and competitiveness is a good thing, because you take it into your professional life too, when it comes to your job and wanting to set goals, achieve them, and then set new ones. It's awesome, and I love hearing that from coaches. And you mentioned Leslie. She is the winningest coach in any sport in Westwood High School history, 380 wins, which is remarkable. And you were her assistant for many years. And then became the head coach when she stepped away, which a lot of people would have ran away. That's intimidating, right? Those are huge shoes.
I considered it.
Those are huge shoes to fill. How much did you embrace that? And you got 2 state championships, and you're going to have many, many more to come as well, which, shows just we have the right person here, an amazing coach. But how much did you embrace it when that opportunity presented itself, where others would have certainly, ran hard and high?
Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely was, kind of knew it might be happening, but also didn't totally. And so when it happened, I actually was starting another full-time job at the time. Yeah. So I was like, okay, can I make this work? Like, am I going to make it work? And so Matt gave me a few months to figure it out. And I was like, it didn't take a few months. It took just a couple days for me to realize, no, this is exactly where I want to be. And it was the kids too, no question. The kids and the town, and the support. Absolutely no question that I had opportunities in other towns, and the experience that I had here, again, with the kids and the support from their families. And colleagues and Matt, it just was a no-brainer for me. Absolutely no question. And I think I was stepping into some really big shoes,
Yeah.
but I learned so much from Leslie that I think that helped give me slightly more confidence. It was
Yeah.
still scary,
Yeah.
but it gave me a little bit more confidence having had the learned from one of the best. And so I was able to at least step into it, being able to fall back on many of the things that I learned from her and that she instilled in me and everyone she coached or worked with. So, yeah.
And it's a great example too. Like, folks, if there's opportunities that scare you, do it, take it, because you're going to grow, and the confidence that comes through it is amazing. And the winning. 2 state championships. How rewarding was that? And those were amazing runs as well.
Yeah. Well, the first one being right after COVID was so special. We were obviously so happy to be back together for one. So even if it hadn't ended in a state championship, like we would have been happy with
July.
that. Yeah, in July. That was wild. But the rewards are just, and it's not just the wins, it's not just the championships, but I remember so many different little pieces of that game, that day, from that first 2021 state championship, and the kids, and it's very special, and I'm able to kind of celebrate and still celebrate with them when I catch up with them years later.
You did an amazing job on that one because you guys had to play Franklin in Franklin for their state championship.
I couldn't hear anything. It was so loud.
Well, I thought you did an amazing job of keeping them focused and positive, because I'm like sitting there and I'm like beside myself.
Yeah.
You're playing a state championship game in Franklin versus Franklin. Like, that's not
unheard
fair.
of.
It's not fair. It's unprecedented.
And it's never going to happen again because of the COVID rules and all of that.
It was a coin flip, I think, that happened, and it was
that
resources and whatnot. But you guys didn't make any excuses.
No.
And then probably, in my opinion, one of the most memorable goals in Westwood sports history, is that the most memorable goal you've ever been a part of or seen?
I didn't know what happened. I turned to Andrea Meinke, my class of 2016. She was my assistant at the time. I turned to her. I was like, "What just?" I couldn't see it. It happened so fast. And then I saw the clip afterwards, and I was like, "Oh, of course, Ava. Yep." She did that.
Just reminded me.
It was incredible.
Reminded me of Bobby Orr. Flying through the air after scoring the Stanley Cup winner.
Yeah, it was very, very cool.
But what a goal! And then so we talk about the pressure you have of filling in big shoes, right? You also have the pressure, like, you're coaching Westwood, and people have expectations that are, here when they probably should be here. Sometimes they will go there, but hey, take it game by game and all that. And it's a lot of pressure. And I think you do a good job because you always focus on the kids, and, that's the priority. And, to add to the pressure of replacing a Leslie, you guys had a long winning streak, and it went into the next year. And then it ultimately came into another opportunity for a state championship game. And that team and that win might have been the most dominant sports team in Westwood athletics history. What was the final score? Was it 16
to 1, I think?
16-1 They scored the first one, I think, too.
Yeah.
So that was nice of you guys.
Let
them have that first one. And then...
we were not letting any more happen that year. That team, they were not letting anything else happen. I looked at them and I was like, yeah, they're not letting that go.
They were fired up.
They were.
And I mean, that, in my opinion, that was the most dominant. When you look at defense and then the offense and then just everything, that was like, it was unbelievable. Was that the most dominant team that you've, either been a head coach of or an assistant for?
Oh, it's honestly, I've been coaching so long at this point.
You've seen a lot.
Since 2012. That was my first year as assistant. There have been a lot of dominant teams. I would say, like, that group, just the athleticism through and through. I was thinking of like a kid like Kendall Blomquist on that team.
Tremendous on defense.
And lacrosse was not her first sport.
Yeah.
I'm so fortunate to have athletes come through, in addition to lacrosse players who make us technically sound, which is awesome. But having athletes makes all the difference, for sure. And so I think that team, the 2022 team, was full of athletes and lacrosse players. We were just stacked, and they worked every single day and they had great attitudes. And I think they just, they were not taking anything from anyone. They were moving forward as
winners.
Yeah, for
Absolute
sure.
Winners.
For sure.
And also thank you for saving us all, heart damage from just making that game easy. We've seen a lot of back and forths, where clinging on to every, possession. That one was.
Do you want to fast forward to a year later?
No, we don't want to talk about that. But what a game, and what a memory, and 2 state championships back to back. What was it total? What was the total winning streak amongst those two? Was it? Did it reach the 50s?
Yes, I think so.
Because
it was we play 20. We play 21
regular
play a bunch season games. Yeah,
and a bunch of probably at least 5 playoffs too.
Yep.
And I was telling Kathy Delaney Smith about it because I remember being at the semifinals game. It was at Natick.
Yep.
And I think you guys were playing Lincoln Sudbury that year. And they were trying to hoot and holler, before the game, while Westwood was doing their warm-ups and trying to intimidate them. Girls didn't even look over. No. They were just so dialed in and just cared about, and they had so much confidence and just they knew what they're capable of, and they were professionals. The flow state they were already in before the game kicked off was amazing. And I was telling Kathy that, and that was what her teams in the 70s were like.
Yeah. And
that alone kind of told me that the sports culture that started in the 70s is very much still alive here, 50 years later, and how sports is taken so seriously, but also they don't let the distractions, seep in. They're professionals,
For sure, yeah. That group, they every year they push each other day in and day out, and that's what they're. I think their toughest opponent is themselves.
Absolutely.
And their own teammates. And so that's what helps us get to a game like LS that they don't care who's hooting and hollering. They're focused on themselves. And it's pretty impressive.
Loved it. Before the game, I was like, what? I'm just proud of them before they even played. They just do it the right way.
Yep.
You have a lot of great leaders on your team that we've seen across other sports, the DeMayos, Nazalila, Kate Sullivan in girls hockey just recently. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of great leaders, not just from players, but in coaches like Leslie Frank in the past. In your opinion, what makes for a great leader, and who are some of the best leaders you've seen come through the program?
Ooh, there's a lot of them. What makes our leaders such great leaders is that they don't care if they have the captain title or not. They're going to put in the work. It's really more so about the amount of work that they put in, the example that they set. They're leaders by example, and people follow. When you see the twins on the wall 24/7 since the stick was as tall as they were, that gets people following them along, and that's what makes the difference for sure. I think in addition to that, I would say overall throughout the years, our leaders have had a nice balance of being compassionate and providing tough love. I feel like that's a little bit of me too. Mm-hmm. But I think that finding that balance of, hey, let's have fun and laugh while we're getting our water break, and then right back to it, and setting that example as captains and leaders definitely helps get people going and following along, and then those kids carry it on as they grow older. So we're very fortunate. We've had many, many great captains and leaders over the years.
Absolutely. And we've called, a bunch, and just the way they carry themselves and how they set that example. And I think one of the biggest, most important factors that we've seen that every single one of your players has is they're the hardest working. The leaders are the hardest working, and if the leaders competing out there till the very end, the last whistle, then, you have to. Yeah. And it's such a great example to set. And what I've noticed too, it's far different than when we played. The leaders are more welcoming to the underclassmen.
Yes.
We had it tough.
Yeah.
They didn't like us.
Culture has changed for sure.
I remember I was a freshman, and I didn't really have it easy. like, and I'm sure the upperclassmen would admit, like,
Yep.
they could have been, nicer and whatnot, but that was the reality back then. Now they're so welcoming. They
Yeah.
know that these kids are going to be a big part of that team.
Yep.
Caroline Nozzolillo, big part of state championship team as a freshman. DeMayo's as well. And the fact that they get these kids, to just take their guard down and feel welcomed and brush away those nerves as early as possible is just an amazing example of leadership that I think is. I'm so glad to see it now, because we didn't have that luxury.
Yeah, it's definitely evolved over the years.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking back again, kind of thinking post COVID. We had amazing teams before then, but now that it's 5 years, thinking of like the 2021 seniors and captains, Ashley Mackin. I remember witnessing her as a senior leader, and again, everyone was happy to be back, but the compassion and the welcoming nature that she and Anya Holland and
Amazing.
Abby Crowley had was just it was a game changer. And I looked at them and I was like, wow, like we can be successful and competitive and kind at the same time. I learned
100%.
a lot from them that year.
They were incredible. And a question I wanted to ask too that never really knew, because unfortunate COVID took away a season, and the sad thing is that was a senior season for probably a bunch of great athletes and girls. Like, what were the prospects of that season? Was that a team that could have taken it the distance, you think?
Yeah, it's very possible. Obviously, who knows? But that was a great group of kids, and those seniors were my first freshman as head coach.
Oh, they're special.
So it was. I was bummed for them to miss their senior year. I was bummed for me to not see them see their potential and see it through for the final year of their high school career. But it definitely makes you appreciative of every day that we do have all together, and that was a really good group.
One thing I want to ask is, you mentioned earlier, high school, it was a lot different when you guys played, and even from when I was in high school, high school is rapidly evolving, especially the last 20 years. What are some of the biggest challenges you see your student athletes facing today?
Ooh, I mean, one thing that is nice is that they do show up, and they kind of compartmentalize. They really do their best to do that and leave other things off to the side for a couple hours. But that being said, they're dealing with really, really, really high expectations just in society in general. If you don't have an offer from a top 10 college, like, what are you doing? And so what I think is a big thing for them is that they feel that pressure either from the outside or from themselves or combination. And we're reminded, luckily, when we do get together in the spring, that they can hopefully come to the field and forget about some of those things, work hard, have fun, be competitive. And when you're doing all of that at a high pace and high level, you can't really think of much else.
Was it ever more apparent after COVID how important sports is for these kids and their mental health?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. For sure. And as a school counselor by trade, that is like no question. Whether it's sports, competitive sports, even just getting your body moving. But I think from my experience, and obviously I'd say my only experience is sports, but it makes such a huge difference in teenage girls' confidence when they are able to kind of put themselves out there on a sports field. And I think it makes a huge difference. And so especially in recent years, that's something that we've focused on as well, is asserting yourself and being confident in that. And I think, and I hope from my former players who I see as adults, I think sports absolutely no question benefited them. And no matter what level they ended up at, if they just finished playing in high school and didn't play in college, like they benefited, no question.
It's the greatest classroom of them all.
Yeah.
Kathy Delaney Smith says that. And she used to have honorary coaches, which are essentially faculty members at Harvard, to come and spend time with her. And they were like, this is an impactful classroom.
Yeah.
And, they're learning important things in life.
Yep.
The things we teach are important. It's going to make you successful in life. But this is what's going to these are the lasting things, that are foundational in life. And the fact that you are a professional, that understands these kids, it's the most important developmental years of their life.
Yeah.
And to use sports to help kind of, with their development for when it comes to confidence, belief in their self.
Yep.
They have to make a pretty important decision, we say, in where they're going to go to school.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of stress on these kids.
Yep.
And to have someone like you that knows, knows it better than anyone else that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate to like what I do and love what I do. But even just like it, because some days aren't great, but I'm still able to say that I like it and I love it. And it's the kids and the lessons that they're learning, but also the lessons they teach me that make a huge difference.
We got a question from a lot of people have asked this, and we've actually been interested ourselves. I think it was the Longmeadow game last year, and people want to know if Westwood Media Center can get on the score sheet for an assist with the buzzer beater goal by yelling from the sidelines. That was 7 seconds remaining. 6, 5, 4, and I don't know if it was Nas or Thurman, but it was a quick pass to either one or the other.
Yep.
But we were there making sure they knew how much time was on the clock. So
I love it.
We're wondering,
we were shooting away from the scoreboard.
Yes,
or the clock. Yeah.
And we're wondering, do we get in the scorebook as an assist?
I'll jot it down.
Love it. There we go. So hey, girls, when the clock is going down, listen, we'll be yelling. We'll make sure the people at home know as well how much time's on the clock.
And they know your voice too, so they'll know they can trust that countdown.
It's not an opposing fan. It's
No,
not
exactly.
it's not like when you're in an away gym and they're counting down, 3 seconds and there's 15 left on the clock.
Yep, exactly.
So we are under a week away before the season starts. We always like to ask coaches, even captains too, realistically, how many spots are currently open? And if there is, a number, what can underclassmen do during these important days of tryouts to be on your radar where you're like, wow, it might not even be skilled. It might just be they are the hardest working person out there and they got my attention. What are things that kids who weren't on the team last year can get your attention where you're like, wow, I gotta double click on this.
Yeah. Well, we had 4 graduate, but that doesn't mean we only have 4 spots. It really depends. We never take an exact number. It's really who's in front of us and what we can make of it. We've had a 16 person team one year.
Wow.
And just because overall the program was small. And then we've had 20, 21, 22. So it really depends. It's what we see in front of us. And then from there, it's the effort, the coachability. I don't care about lacrosse skills until I see coachability and effort that you put in. And so when we then go from there, it's really about, okay, who needs to grow, who needs a season to get lots of touches on JV, and it's not a bad thing, but like there's some kids I'm like, I can't have you sitting on a varsity bench wasting time. It's actually nothing against you. You're a varsity player in the future. But I'm not going to be the one to waste your time. I need you on JV getting lots of touches and getting that experience. And then from there, we either pull kids up mid-season or postseason, or they make varsity the next year. And you can definitely see the difference when you take kids on varsity and you're like, oh, shoot, they're not getting much time or whatever. But and it depends, too, on the kid. I've taken plenty of kids on varsity as a freshman or sophomore who still didn't get as much time, just the way it panned out. But they were putting in the time on their own.
Good.
They were making the most of the practice reps. They were pushing their starters. They were getting on the wall on their own time. So it really kind of depends year to year and who we have in front of us. But for those kids vying for a spot, be coachable. And this is for every sport.
Oh, 100%.
not just mine, but be coachable, be attentive, and just work your hardest. Don't give up. And you're gonna be just fine. Everyone will be in the spot that they need to be in. And hopefully we'll see. Maybe if you're bummed by an initial decision, you'll see the benefits in the long run.
And that's, as a fellow coach, one of the concerns we have is if you take a freshman and they don't get playing time and they're losing out on reps, and they're where you want them to be able to stay sharp and grow as well. So one example, coaching hockey, like Brady Dumais, Sean Blomqvist, Timmy Malloy, to name a few, they were on JV their freshman year. And they were amazing. They were, amazing players, all-star players for Westwood. Who are some examples that benefited for a year of JV, and then look at what they've done, where like a kid who might not start on varsity can say, you know what, a ton of fantastic players did play JV and turned out to be amazing, athletes that played at college and things like that.
Well, I guess thinking of this senior class, I have 6 seniors and 3 were on JV and 3 were on varsity. And the 3 who were on varsity had varying experiences. So Naz got more time a little bit just because a spot, she didn't get it at first. She had to earn it, and a spot kind of opened up, and then she earned that to keep that. But then the twins, this was 2022, like the team that we were talking about before, like just that powerhouse team, they fortunately got tons of practice reps with those older girls, and that's what kept them sharp. Even if they got limited time in some of the bigger games, again, I probably wanted them in there, but who was I taking out? Lindsay Diomede, Kate Dean. It was not
legends.
Exactly.
Or legend in college too.
Exactly. So it's not easy to make those calls. And then we've got Cece Thurmond and Kate Sullivan and Catherine Donlin, our senior goalie. They were on JV as freshmen, and look at them now.
Studs.
They're incredible.
Got to play in college too. So it's if you're not on varsity as a freshman, even sophomore folks, there is still so much upside to being a stud, and to making, and it's good reps too. So it's awesome to hear, those stories.
Coach, who are some, Morgan and I started filming games last spring. We worked together, and, we're familiar with all of the kids on the teams, Kate Sullivan, Cece Thurman, Caroline Nozzolillo, to name a few. But who are some of those players that, younger players who are finally making that jump, who we should keep our eye out for the upcoming season?
Yeah. So Jenny Mackin is a junior.
Unreal.
She's incredible at the draw.
Draw control stud.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that she's put in that work on her own. We did not develop that last spring. She came ready to go. And then she's just she hunts on defense. She gets those back checks, those knockdowns, and we're very fortunate to have a versatile player like Jenny. And then, our 2 now sophomores who were freshmen last year, Ava Meredith and Bridget Hughes. They're workers. Bridget suddenly got playing time, starting time as a freshman. I think when I told her, she was not expecting it, but and then Ava didn't get as much time as a freshman, but both of them are absolutely, without a doubt, have been putting in the time, and ready to come back as sophomores, and I think they're excited. And then we've got a bunch of other juniors too. Lizzie Weeman, Olivia Shea, who are basketball.
Yep.
You've seen them.
Living Mason.
Yep. So it's just it's nice to have athletes, especially coming back from the basketball season, or soccer for Mason in the fall, and Mary Lou for field hockey. It's nice to know that they're out there playing other sports that I know are going to benefit our game and their athleticism on the field in the spring.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask about is, a lot of these students play other sports with each other as well, and that has to be big in terms of team chemistry. These kids know each other. Some of them play 3 sports together in hockey or field hockey. And how beneficial is that for you as a coach, where there is that familiarity and that helps you with team chemistry and coaching these kids?
Yeah, I think, you can see the connections from the get-go as soon as we start the season. And so they've already all kind of made those friendships and relationships throughout the year. And you can see that comfort and that ability to kind of feel like, all right, like, I know there's people around me. I feel like I can put myself out there. I feel like I can do a little bit more. So I think being a spring sport is actually, we're quite fortunate. I think they learn a lot in the school year leading up to now that we benefit from in the spring.
Spring sport is also unique. If your team doesn't win a state championship in the fall or winter, you're fired up.
Yeah.
To, especially if you're senior, it's your kind of your last chance to go out and win. And then Westwood's full of so many competitors. They want to win.
Yeah.
It's not, we don't want to just win the TV. We want to bring hardware home.
Yeah, exactly.
Last year was a big year for a bunch of the juniors, in my opinion. Emergence.
Mm-hmm.
They came out and got more playing time than they did the previous year, and they took full advantage of that, and they turned into superstars. So I want to start off with Catherine Donahue. What a amazing year she had, and certainly one of the best goaltenders in the TVL.
And she was not always a goalie.
No, and the confidence she had, and you have to be fearless to be. It's like, it's a very important position.
I'm not volunteering for it.
No, I did it once, and that once was enough. But talk about her and the season she had last year, and how excited you are to see her pick up where things are left off.
No, so Catherine switched to goalie earlier in high school. Yeah, she played the field earlier on, and then she switched it up. And I'm very fortunate that she did that, because I think she found for her a place that works for her, and she's found that confidence. I'm fortunate that Haley Barner, our assistant, is one of our former state champion goalies, class of 2016, and so their work together has made a huge difference. And I think Catherine and the defenders kind of feed off of each other. They give each other the feedback that they need. And if like a defender misses something, she's there to back them up. And if they both miss it, then they've got each other's backs, and they're saying on to the next one. So it's nice to have a senior back there in that position. And so I'm really looking forward to how she does this year.
And you guys had a statement win versus Longmeadow at home last year. And it wasn't necessarily because you scored a bunch of goals. You did. Yeah. But she saved a bunch. And that's why the disparity was so big. And then coupled, Mackin had like 12 draw controls. It was incredible. The other the second emergent player, from last year, in my opinion, Kate Sullivan. So the previous year, she was more kind of on the defense. And she had one of the biggest defensive plays of that season. She knocked the ball loose when you guys were down a goal. It might have been down. I don't know if you were down 2 at the time or if it was 1, but I think it was 1 because they had possession and they were just looking to draw the clock out. She knocks it down. You guys go the other way.
And
score.
Hillary gets it.
Incredible.
And
I think they sent it back to Riley, and then Riley, sent it out.
Riley was like, get it up there.
It was, but like, what a play for a sophomore at that time. And she was more defensive. Last year, she took more of a presence on offense, and she reminded me like a point guard.
Yeah.
She could dish it. She could then go to the net and score a bunch. And her connection with Nazalillo was incredible. Just the two would find each other. And clearly they're close friends. You can tell, you know.
Yeah.
Talk about her and the emergence she had last year and the presence she contributed from an offensive perspective.
Yeah. So our first game last year at Ashland, we're it's after a couple years in a row where we get to the state championship and we're finding ourselves again, a new identity, a new group of kids. And we're kind of struggling a little bit at Ashland. It's up on a hill. It's early April. It's cold. And Kate is she's not doing it.
Yeah.
So I pull her out. I'm like, are you one of the best players on this team? She's like, I don't know. I was like, yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
She was like, got it, and went back out. And
flip the switch.
I think she just kind of, and I've seen this before. I remember specifically with Lindsay Diamede, like sometimes, and other kids, like sometimes they kind of just need that permission to just go. Like, you have a role on this team. Go. Do it. Do it. And so I think Kate just was like, okay, now's my time. I'm on it. And she didn't stop from there.
What players don't realize sometimes is that the coach believes in them more than they believe in themselves.
Yep, for sure.
And then when a player realizes that the coach believes in them, it means the world. Yeah. And then they are able to just let everything loose because that's all that matters. It's like it's like a parent. You know?
Yeah, no question.
And the third emergent player from last year, CC Thurman. So we called a bunch of games, and we always used to say, set up in Gretzky's office, kind of just, she'd behind the net, find the cutter and pass goal. And she was so good at that. And then she put her foot on the gas, scoring goals herself. Yeah. And the what she did in the playoffs, she had, I think, 5 goals in maybe the round of 32 game, and then 4 in the next one. Yeah. That is a big time threat. And when you add that to what you already have, and then Kate Sullivan chipping in, and I'm not going to say Ashley Mackin, Jenny Mackin chipping in, and Hughes and Meredith, everyone, that is, how do you defend that? Pick your poison. But talk about how her game elevated. We knew how good of a passer she was, but when she started putting in a bunch of goals, talk about how impressive that was.
Yeah, I think Cece just kind of was like, well, everyone knows the other people's names. Let me. I'm gonna do my thing, and she did. She just did her thing. Yeah. I didn't have to worry about her. She's back there working in that neighborhood on the crease, and I think too, like, she probably was like, people don't know my name on the other team. Well, I'm gonna make sure you know. Like, go ahead. Like, let's see if you notice me. I'm gonna make you notice me. Yeah. And so I really like her demeanor on the field. She's not showy whatsoever, and she does the work, and we can rely on her up there. So she had a great junior year. Yeah.
You can't teach size.
No.
She's tall, and when she goes to the net and she starts cutting herself, like, you can't defend that.
Yeah, no.
We called the Duxbury game last year, and that seemed to be a disappointing loss. You guys were up, I think, 3, and they came back, and then they scored a late one. Would you consider that the turning point in the season last year? Because at the beginning of the season, it was a slow start. And then by the end of the season, you guys, in my opinion, were, top team in the state. Yeah. And a team that certainly had the firepower to win a title. What changed in your opinion? And, what was that point, in the season, you think, where it changed?
So, I mean, I think we always want to be our best team on our last day. And these kids really, they believe that. They understand that, okay, a bad day in early April does not define us. And they put in the work. I think that Duxbury game, there were a lot of technical pieces that we did not do well. And I think it was kind of that realization that athleticism only gets you so far. We have to go with those X's and O's and maybe slow ourselves down a little bit and be a little bit more technical. And I think that's where they, like, sometimes you just need that wake up call, like, oh, okay, yep, we can't just like run and show our athleticism. We need to hit those passes against a tall zone defense. And I think that definitely helps to, sometimes you have to see it in front of you and have that little wake up call. And that's, I don't know if that was the turning point or what, but definitely contributed to it for sure.
Totally different teams by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And but sometimes you need those. Sometimes those are good things. Those are blessings. You know,
even in like 2023, we had a loss early on. Who was that to?
Canandaigua.
Yeah, that was really early, and I think there was another one. Was there another one mid-season? I'm blanking.
Might have been Medfield. Was Medfield?
No, that was last year.
That was last year. Yeah.
Do we have to talk about that?
No, but hey, we got a season ahead of us.
I know. No, but like even in 2023, like we had come off that 22 season that everyone's talking about, and like we have to lock in and get focused. And it takes a couple weeks, couple different experiences against different teams. And that's like one of the greatest things about being a coach is seeing them realize it, either whether it's listening to what I have to say or listening to each other or seeing it in front of them, putting the pieces together, and then bit by bit, like growing from there. It's pretty incredible, and I get to see it every spring.
And we love telling the story. You know, our thing that we say now is from podcast to championship.
Yep.
You know, and we love going back to the podcast to say, hey, this is we talked about months ago, and then TVL trophies, state championship trophy, all of that. You know, it's the best to be able to tell that the story of each team and whatnot.
Yep.
Last year, in my opinion, I thought you guys were overlooked. I didn't think that where you guys were seated was a reflection of how good you guys were. And come playoffs, you guys were, you know, it seemed like you had a chip on your shoulder, and I loved every bit of it. And I would say it, I go, I love every bit of this, you know, take no prisoners, you know, go out there and just ball out. And you guys did. Did you feel that way that, you know, for the first time in a while, Westwood was getting overlooked? And was that also maybe a good thing, a motivational thing for the team?
For sure. And I think, yes, I think we were definitely, ranked, what was it, 8th or 7th?
Yeah.
And that's fine, because the final number is what matters. And so for the girls, again, from that, let's say, Duxbury game earlier in the season, they took a look within and made the changes weekly, and then leading up to the playoffs. And they wanted it just as much as any other team, any other number one ranked team in our past. And so I think what's important for any team to know and realize is that it doesn't matter what other people or what the power rankings say. It's the work that you put in, and if you're gonna do that leading up to your best day yet and making it your last day your best day, I think that's all the motivation you need. You want to be able to look back and say, I left it all out there the entire season and that final game, and they did. I think no question. I think there are a lot of people who are like, all right, well, we graduated a bunch, fine, it's a rebuilding year, and you know, like every year is a rebuilding year. We're always we're working. It's a completely new team every year, and I think last year I said it nearly every day to the entire team that those 4 seniors made a huge difference for us. Only one is playing in college, and that doesn't matter. The 4 of them were there leading the team. And we were very fortunate to have them as athletes on the field,
Yeah.
leaders, and just having great positive attitudes that really carried the entire team through.
I do got to give a shout out too, though. You mentioned, not paying attention to the rankings and all that, but one person that's had, I think, accurate rankings for a while, Trevor Haas, during the most dominant season, in my opinion, for Westwood Girls Lacrosse ever. MIA had you guys at maybe a 2 or 3 seed. Trevor had you at 1 the whole time.
Yeah.
He knew. He's got his pulse on everything. But he had you at 1 and he knew. But he's fantastic.
Well, and that's also why we can't pay attention to that or to the MIA, right? We can't pay attention to either. You take it in one day and then you put your head down and keep working and see what it ends up like.
They don't know what's going on, in behind closed doors, and what the teams are capable of until, a state championship game. Yeah. And then the team that's on top, that's how you earn it. So.
Exactly.
Talk through the non-league games you have this year. Ooh. You always schedule tough ones.
Yeah, this year's extra tough.
And you're not afraid. And I give you credit because it makes your team battle-tested. Yeah. And it also builds some confidence in your team and knowing what they're capable of come playoff time. Yep. Who are your non-league games? And then what is what's your mindset when picking non-league games?
So we've got Franklin, Concord Carlisle, Duxbury, Bishop Girton, Moses Brown, NDA, Lincoln Sudbury. I might be missing one in there. But we play the same league teams every year. And
they're state champions too.
Exactly.
Medfield, Dover, Sherborne.
Exactly. So we need to be battle tested by them, but also see different types of opponents, different types of games that we're playing against, whether it's zone defenses or if they run things through one kid or a whole bunch of kids or whatever it is. And so scheduling those games, once I finished scheduling them, I was like, ooh, that's a lot. But they can handle it. And the thing is too, is I don't care. Did I say Hingham? I think I left out Hingham.
You left them out.
Yeah. We're playing Hingham.
You said Moses Brown.
Yeah.
And Bishop Girton.
Yes.
So you're playing 2 top teams for top team in New Hampshire, the top team in Rhode Island. Yeah. So they're playing the top teams in New England, basically. And these also go towards your power ranking points too. So you're not afraid to take a loss here and there to know it's going to be a greater impact.
A good loss counts positively towards our power rankings, and so we have to plan accordingly. And so again, even if there's a loss or all of those games are losses, I think it's going to be a positive experience that we will walk away from every single one of those games having learned something about ourselves and preparing for the future.
That's all. I mean, that's the iron.
Yeah.
It's like you're running it like this is like remember the TV show 2-A-Days on MTV?
Oh yeah.
Hoover?
Oh my God.
It's like that where it's like, they're playing the iron, and it's like college commit, 4 or 5 college commits on this team.
Yeah, and I know these teams, and some of the coaches are friends. Like Franklin, their coach Kristen
BC.
is my BC.
She was calling the the game UMass game on ESPN Plus.
Yep.
I was like, how does she do both? I'm like, well, maybe she does the games early and then helps,
exactly. But having those connections and that kind of mutual respect for what we both do is nice. And you're gonna show up and have a good game between the 2 teams, so it's good for our girls.
So Meredith Frank, very very close friend of yours, and you guys have been working at Mass Elite together for many years, and then you guys compete every year, in the playoffs, regular season. It's awesome. It's great for lacrosse. It's great for NDA. It's great for Westwood. It's great for you guys and ultra competitors. I used to go to the games when it was Westwood versus NDA. Mm-hmm. And I remember Meredith and Leslie, the ultimate competitors, and they love each other too. Like, Meredith adores her mom, and Leslie adores Meredith. But it would be a day or two after those games where they need, some time for themselves, and then be like, all right, love you, Mom. Congrats on the state championship. I'm coming for you next year. And then she would win, so it'd go back and forth.
Yeah.
What's the dynamic like when you play a close friend, particularly in the playoffs? And you know what? You're happy, for a friend, but you're also, and vice versa. You're excited you won, but a close friend, lost. Like, what's that dynamic typically like when you go through that?
I mean, the number one word that comes to mind is respect.
Yeah.
We respect each other's game because we coach oftentimes the similar ways. Whether it's me and Meredith, the Hingham coach is my friend Carla, who's also from Hingham. And so like we're fortunate to have other coaches who give so much respect to the game. And while we play hard and we compete hard, at the end of the day, it is a game. And we don't let anything really come in between anyone. But when we lose, it's not fun to lose, but you can move on because you know that if your team lost, it's because they lost to a highly skilled team, and it just then motivates you too. Both sides. I know that whenever we've beaten them, it's motivation for them, and I know that they're going to come back stronger. And I like to think that we do the same, and so that's what makes our non-league schedule, in addition to our league schedule, so important, because there's so much more from those games that we learn than just X's and O's.
So, Coach, we're going to call this season the Year of the Rings. Newly engaged. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My buddy Danny McGinnis, he was on champagne duty.
He was.
I think he was like driving, and Meredith
just happened to have a work party after I got engaged.
It was a work party, and they found out, and they told Danny, turn around, get champagne, get
he sure did.
A bunch. So he's like, pulls the car up on two wheels, goes to get the champagne.
He's a good wingman.
Oh, absolutely. But congrats.
Thank you.
And hopefully that's a prelude to another ring. Towards the end of the season.
We will see.
What are you looking forward to most about this season, besides getting kicked off, the season kicked off and underway? What are some of the things that you're most excited about?
I think seeing some of those JV kids from last year stepping into new roles, some of those younger kids from varsity last year stepping into bigger shoes, new roles. As upperclassmen, and really just seeing how they take what we do and they grow. I'm really looking forward to seeing how everyone kind of comes together, and every year, again, we've said is a new team with some pieces carrying over, and so seeing how those relationships and friendships blossom throughout the spring is really special. And then seeing how they take care of each other on and off the field, that's what I'm looking forward to.
And we're looking forward to covering it. One of my favorite sports to call, because it's fast, it's exciting, a lot of goals, and some, and exhilarating too. It's 1-goal games, and then to put the game away. There's just so much different components that I love about the game, and especially with the history of being able to call your own high school's team. It's the best.
I'm sure that's very cool. Well, the kids love it. I love this for the kids. They deserve the recognition. And we didn't talk about social media earlier, but like, what's different about high schoolers? Like, they've got social media, and I know that like they love seeing this out there, that seeing themselves, seeing their friends, and just clips of like what's so important to them that they can share. And I'm proud seeing them on your reels and all of that. So thank you for covering all of them. They're deserving. So it's pretty cool.
We love highlighting it. And, like we said, we want them to look at it years from now, proud of the person they were then and the person they've become.
Yeah.
you know, and it's also, hey, confidence is always in us. We just have to kind of bring it out sometimes. And, you know, looking back on some of those games are good reminders of what, you know, what we have in us, you know, so. Coach, thank you so much. This is a lot of fun. This is great to get to know Margot, the person as well, philosophies and all that. And like we said, looking forward to covering the season and, you know, heck of a schedule. And we're excited about it, you know,
Thank you.
And we're excited too of, you know, the prospects of the postseason. I got a good feeling about this year's team and the firepower coming back. Well, folks, thank you for tuning in. Wolverine Report, episode 32 with your head coach, Margot Spatola. We'll see you all in the next one.